Okay, Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Okay, guys, um, so we revisited I'rab with Sheikh Umar, which is essentially the case endings. They're the endings that occur to the ending of a word. They're the changes that occur to the ending of a word that tell us pretty much its purpose in the sentence, right? They signify the state of the word, and once we know the state of the word, it becomes easier for us to determine the purpose of that word within the statement, within the sentence. So there are three types of endings. There's fully flexible, meaning it can go muslimun, muslimin, musliman. It can take in, an, right? All the three representations of the states that we know. Being rafa, in being jar, an being nasb, right? Then there's partially flexible, where it can only go and an. So you're only going to see muslimun, musliman, right? That would be an example of partially flexible. Words that only do that. Muslim, by the way, is just our placeholder word. It doesn't actually do that. It can go into all three, but there's just an example. An example of this would be example of it, I guess you could say, would be Ibrahimu and Ibrahima. Since it's a non-Arab name, it will never take Ibrahimi, even though it can go into a state of jar. Let's say if you had like a harfu jar or was a part of a mudaf ilayh, then it can take the jar state, but it will never be represented by a kasra, right? And then finally we have non-flexible, meaning they're never going to change, right? So an example is Isa and Musa. Never changes. Rafa, nasab, jar, that case ending's never going to change. Okay, so the signs of a partially flexible word is that there's no kasra, and there's also no tanween. So a partially flexible word would be Ibrahim. You'll never see Ibrahimi, and you'll never see Ibrahimun, min, man, none of that. So there's no kasra, and there's no tanween, even if it's in a state of jar, right? So the conditions for partially flexible, Sheikh roughly went over them, and we just really have to know them. So if any of you guys want this document, by the way, or you failed to get them down, this is now the good time to write it all down. So he said the conditions for partially flexible are that it has to fulfill one of these two. So any of these two, if it fulfills any of these two or more, it's partially flexible. So we know the first is definite word, 2 has to be feminine, 3 a descriptive noun, meaning that within its nature it's something that is a description. The example Sheikh Omar gave was like Rahma or any of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're inherently descriptions. The fourth is a word that was replaced by a word that came from it. The example he gave was thalathatu, which was replaced by thulathun. The fifth is a word that is non-Arab. An example of that would be Ibrahim. 6 is plurality. 7, 2 words made into one. The example he gave was bal bakka, I believe, or bakka bal, right? The it was supposed to be a mudaf ilayh fragment, but it was joined into one, right? The 8th is a noun that is on a pattern of a verb. So af'ala, Ahmed, right? It's on the pattern of a verb, so that would be 1. And then 9 is a word with an alif and noon ending and 3 letters before it. And usually that's like a name. So he gave like Uthman. Before the alif and the noon, you have Ain, Tha, and the Mim, right? So 3 letters before. And those were the conditions that Sheikh talked about for partially flexible. Really all we can do is memorize them and then begin to apply them. Alright guys, Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.